Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Byington, and this is the last of my videos on the Aeneid. This one is covering book 6, where we focus on the visit to the Sybil of Cumae and Aeneas's visit to the underworld as well. So we begin this book with the arrival at Cumae. This was an island colonized by the Greeks on in what is the coast of modern day Italy. You usually get a footnote that this is kind of near Naples. So this was the seat of the Sibyl of the priestess of Apollo. So she's kind of a big deal. There are a few other kind of folklore references made throughout other pieces of literature to her. Um, there is an epigraph about her in the beginning of T.S. Eliot's long poem, The Wasteland, for example. Now, something else about her is that this sort of legend that because she refused Apollo's advances, because, like everything in Greek mythology, there's always some kind of rape narrative in the background. Because he pursued her and she declined, because she wanted to remain a virgin. Um, he kind of does this evil thing, and there are variations of this. The outcome is that she lives forever, but he kind of, in one of the more common variations, he kind of offers her, oh, okay, well, I respect you then. If you had one wish, what would it be? Wouldn't you like to be immortal? And she says yes. And so he makes her immortal, that she will live forever, but he doesn't give her eternal youth. And so she continues to age like in real time, like you and I would. But she, because she does live for centuries, she just shrivels and shrivels up until she's just like this little speck. And her remains are kept in a jar, and she finally does meet an end. So she's not like really immortal. Different variations of that, but she's the most famous of the Sibyls that are discussed from the ancient world. Okay, so anyhow, Aeneas and his comrades have gone here to go get her advice because he wants to go to the underworld and speak to his dad, his father, who was mentioned earlier in the Aeneid, Anchises, and get his advice about what to do going forward in this whole big thing about his fate to found a city and have ancestors who found, excuse me, descendants who found Rome. So, and when he first arrives, so the Sibyl answers his prayer by giving this information. So first she describes, like, she's having this vision, and she describes blood foaming in the rivers. Like there's going to be a lot of war in Italy. And he's also going to have this future bride who is a foreigner. So you do go on to see those things played out in the latter books of the Aeneid. Um, Now, the advice for him of how he can go to the underworld and what to do there, that's another kind of segment of this visit. So she explains that, well, even though you are half immortal, you can't just go to the underworld and come back. It's easy to go there. It's not easy to get back. That's the first thing she says. And then she says, here's how you'll know if you can do it. You go into the forest, and on a tree, among the green foliage, there will be one branch with golden leaves. So we have the golden bough. And if you reach to take it and it easily breaks off, then you are meant to be able to go to the underworld and come back. It's supposed to be his ticket, per se, to Persephone, or who is called Proserpina here, her Roman name, the queen of the underworld. So he does find the golden bough and it breaks, and so we know, of course, he's Aeneas, he has to go do this. And he's also supposed to do this other little micro side quest of giving proper burial rites, or funeral rites rather, for one of the Trojans, who is just kind of wandering the underworld, unable to pass. And you get a little more information about that too when we actually go into the underworld. Now, the description of the underworld, this is something to keep in mind if you go on to read Dante's Inferno, which is nothing but like image after image after image of describing hell and the different layers of the underworld. Now, here in Virgil's description of the underworld, we have some sort of allegories of death at first. Like you have war and you have sleep, which is called death's twin brother. There are sounds as well as the sights where there are infants crying, souls who died in infancy. There are people who were killed unfairly. So there's this wailing sound. You also get a lot of description of the topography of the underworld, especially the bodies of water. In my videos covering Dante's Inferno, we'll talk more about that then. But then there's this moment, and this thing I'm about to talk about is also in Dante's Inferno, of the ferryman, Charon, who takes the souls across the river Styx so that they can cross over into the underworld, like actually kind of go on to be at rest, hopefully. But there are all these people trying to get on the ferry, and he's not letting them on. And in Dante's Inferno, he's really rude. He's really mean and strict. He's like beating people with his oars. Um, but here, the Sybil explains when Aeneas asks, like, what are they doing? And she says, well, those people haven't been given their proper funeral rites, and so they can't cross over yet. So this is echoing the beliefs at that time of how important those funeral rites were. So he goes on across the river Styx, Aeneas does, and now he's like really, really in the underworld. And we're first in a place called the Field of Mourning. And he runs into his ex, and you know how that's always kind of an awkward moment. And now, when he runs into Dido, it tells you she is his enemy. Excuse me. So he sees her, and when it's first mentioned in the text that she's like, there she is, it says the wound is still fresh. So when she impaled herself on the sword, that memory, that moment, it hasn't been forgotten. It hasn't even been that long. That was just a couple of books ago. So um, Aeneas sees her, and he begins to cry. He feels bad about this. He says, "So it's true. What I heard about your death is true. You are dead. I did you do this because of me? I'm so sorry. I didn't leave you at my own will. The gods persuaded me to do it because it's my fate and all that, my descendants have to go found Rome stuff." And it says she doesn't even look at him. She just looks down at the ground with seething anger. And then it says she tears herself from him. She walks away, she goes on. And and he continues to grieve her death. Then moving on, then he runs into someone else he knows. He runs into his fellow Trojan Deiphobus. You might remember his name from the Iliad, and he is one place you might especially remember him, because I know I cover this scene, but a lot of people teach this particular scene from the Iliad when Hector gets tricked by Athena to go onto the battlefield and fight Achilles. She disguised herself as Deiphobus. So here he is. Now, this could be a little confusing to you because this is one of those parts where you've heard me say in other videos, or variations. Variations of variations, as a matter of fact, of some of these myths, because that's what it is. It's mythology, and different regions have different slight details of the narratives that are different. So he is talking about how he has ended up here in a like not good place of the afterlife and a not good place of the underworld for his sins and for his inability to let go of the anger and wanting revenge on Helen. He calls her, in the text, you might have translations that say the that concubine, that prostitute, the whore of, Sparta is another common one. So what might be confusing about that is that, so she was originally Helen of Sparta, indeed, because she was married to Menelaus. And then when she was taken by Paris back to Troy, then she was the wife of Paris. But then when the Greeks had killed Paris, and see, there are different variations of when exactly Paris was murdered by the Greeks, how soon it was before that night of the Trojan horse being brought in and then the Greeks coming out and slaughtering the city. In this variation, Paris has died before that night that the Trojan horse was brought into the city, and Deiphobus married Helen after Paris, and that he calls it their bridal chamber, like they had just been married right before that night that the Trojan horse was brought in. And he says that she waved a torch out the window to signal the Greeks that the Trojans were all asleep in the palace, that she helped the Greeks come in. She was on the inside of what they were doing, so she could save her own self. So if she helped Menelaus, he wouldn't kill her. So you see how that is an interesting departure from like the story you get in, say, the Trojan women, and even other parts of the Trojan cycle. So moving on, he then meets his father, Anchises, the whole reason he came here into the underworld to get advice. And Anchises tells Aeneas his whole fate. Most of this we kind of already knew. Like, you've got to go on and found Lavinium, and then you have so many sons who are yet to be born, sons of sons, kings of kings. Like, he's talking about, and he gives all the names of this whole Trojan family tree. Well, they are descendants of a Trojan, right? But they're going to go on to be the founders of Rome. So Anchises essentially, like, we know what Aeneas is supposed to go do, but he's reminding Aeneas how important this is, and here's who it will be. Here's who's going to help you do it. And so we get all of that down low, and the heritage of Troy basically described by Anchises. So that's all for book 6. Thank you for watching.